You ever meet a woman in her 70s who's living alone, eating birthday cake for breakfast, talking back to the TV, and looking like she's having the time of her life? Yeah, I met 3 last week, and they've got more spark in them than most 20-year-olds on double espresso. Look, I know living alone after 60, 70, even 80 gets a bad rap sometimes. Folks think it's sad, or quiet, or lonely. But what I've learned from some of the wisest, funniest, and most unfiltered women I know is that living alone isn't the end of the story. For a lot of older women, it's the beginning of the best chapter yet. Today, I want to show you why through real stories, hard-earned wisdom, and a few kitchen confessions that involve midnight cheese platters and no one to judge. Let's get into it. Number 1. You can reclaim the kitchen and break all the food rules. Let me tell you about Miss Diane. 68, divorced for 5 years, and living in a small but sunlit house with a squeaky screen door and a crooked little spice rack she built herself. When I visited her, she greeted me wearing a "Don't ask me what's for dinner" apron and holding a wine glass that said, "I season with sass." She waved me into the kitchen and said, "This is my kingdom now. No bland meatloaf, no heartburn-inducing chili, no passive-aggressive comments about quinoa." See, for decades, she'd cooked for someone else. Someone who liked his eggs scrambled just so, thought broccoli was too green, and insisted that dinner should be served at 6 on the dot. Now, Diane eats when she's hungry, not when the clock tells her to. She makes things with names her ex-husband couldn't pronounce. Stuff like shakshuka, chickpea curry, and something she called drunken mushroom soup, which apparently includes both sherry and storytelling. And here's the thing, she's not alone. Online, I've seen hundreds of older women say the same thing. I'm finally cooking for me. Some eat standing up at the kitchen counter. Some bake cookies at midnight because the mood hits. One woman proudly declared that she eats birthday cake for breakfast every July. Because why the heck not? Living alone means your kitchen becomes a canvas, not a battleground. No negotiations, no compromises, no debates over garlic levels. Just joy, curiosity, and freedom with every bite. Honestly, it's not just about food. It's about finally getting a taste of your own life. Number 2. You don't have to explain your hobbies to anyone anymore. Now, this one really gets me because I never realized until I started listening to older women online just how much they were made to feel weird for liking the things they love. Take Susan. She's 72, lives alone in a small town, and has turned her living room into what she calls her mini museum of dead celebrities. I'm talking Elvis figurines, old magazine covers of Marilyn Monroe, and a life-size cardboard cutout of Frank Sinatra that startles guests every time they turn the corner. My late husband hated it, she told me. Said it was creepy. But me, I say Frank's better company than most folks I know. She said it with a wink, but there was something beautiful in her words. Because when you live alone, you don't owe anyone an explanation. You don't need permission to collect stamps, build birdhouses, or cross-stitch sarcastic sayings onto pillows. Why? Because no great story ever started with salad was my personal favorite. And let's not forget the woman who commented that she'd just taken up tap dancing in her garage. I'm not good, she wrote, but I've got rhythm, arthritis, and nobody watching. That's a win. These little hobbies, these so-called quirks, are actually what make life colorful. And for older women who finally have the space, the silence, and the self-trust to dive into them, it's like rediscovering childhood, but better. No rules, no teachers, just pure curiosity. Because at the end of the day, when there's no one around to mock or dismiss or interrupt, you finally get to create without apology. Number 3. You can finally decorate however the heck you want, including the weird stuff. All right, let's talk about the home, or as many women now call it, their personal sanctuary / muse mood board vibe zone. One woman named Ellie a 69-year-old widow from upstate New York, turned her bedroom into what she proudly called her velvet cave. We're talking purple velvet curtains, a lamp shaped like a flamingo, and walls covered in vintage album covers from the 70s. My late husband preferred neutrals and good taste. I prefer personality and funk, she said. My house used to look like a hotel lobby, she continued. Now it looks like my soul got drunk and redecorated. And I love it. And she's not the only one. In online forums, I've seen older women swap photos of sunflower-themed kitchens, flamingo-patterned wallpaper, disco ball chandeliers in the hallway, and one woman who painted her entire laundry room pink and named it the Spin Cycle Lounge. There's something downright healing about being able to let loose in your own space. It's not just decorating. It's reclaiming the right to be seen by yourself, for yourself. Your home, when you live alone, becomes an extension of your own spirit. You don't have to ask, is this too much? You get to say, it's just enough for me. One woman summed it up perfectly. When you stop decorating for someone else's approval, your home becomes a mirror, and suddenly you start liking who you see. And hey, if that mirror is framed in gold glitter and surrounded by fairy lights, I say all the better. Number 4. You're free from performing the wife's role, even when you're tired. You know, I once asked a woman in her 70s what surprised her the most about living alone after her husband passed, and she didn't hesitate, not for a second. She said, I didn't realize how much of my life was spent being an emotional concierge. That phrase stuck with me. Emotional concierge. Always anticipating someone else's needs. Playing peacekeeper, cheerleader, nurse, cook, therapist, and event planner. All rolled into one. Even when her body was aching, even when her spirit was drained. And I saw this echoed all over the internet too. Women talking about how, after decades of marriage, they didn't even know what it felt like to be off duty. Because even the good guys, the sweet husbands, the dependable ones, still came with expectations. Unspoken rules, a constant undertone of doing dinner at 6 toward you. Remember his meds? Make the dentist appointment. Don't forget to laugh at that same old joke he's told since '92. It wasn't always miserable. Sometimes it was warm and familiar, but it was never optional. And now these women say the silence in their homes is filled with something rare. Relief. They don't have to explain their moods. They don't have to be on. No forced small talk. No checking if someone's socks made it to the laundry. No watching the news just to feel like they're connecting. They get to rest. Really rest without feeling guilty for it. One woman told me, I used to fall asleep on the couch and wake up apologizing. Now I fall asleep in the middle of a murder mystery marathon, drool on my robe, wake up, and nobody cares. It's heaven. That's not loneliness. That's exhale. That's a woman who's finally off the clock. Number 5. You get to heal on your own terms. There's this illusion that healing only happens in therapy offices or through deep, tearful conversations with friends. And while those have their place, I've learned from hundreds of stories that some of the deepest healing happens alone, in silence, in slowness, in the comfort of your own home, when no one is watching. You see it in how women rearrange their furniture after a divorce. They move the recliner that used to be his chair. They take down the wedding photos that make their chest ache. They donate the old dining set and buy something smaller, something just for them. You see it in the rituals they create, lighting a candle in the morning, brewing a cup of tea, and actually sitting down to enjoy it, not just gulping it between tasks. Playing music they love without compromise, crying without needing to explain, laughing sometimes out of nowhere. There's a softness to healing in solitude, a kind of rebuilding that can't happen when you're still managing someone else's emotions. When you live alone, you don't have to tuck your grief away. You don't have to smile if you don't feel like it. You don't have to perform strength. You can be messy. You can be moody. You can be a woman rebuilding her soul one quiet Tuesday afternoon at a time. And no one rushes you. No one interrupts. One woman shared, "After my husband died, I sat in silence for 2 weeks. I barely spoke, but each day I lit a candle and said his name. I didn't talk to anyone else, just him, and it helped." That kind of healing doesn't come with noise. It comes with stillness, and sometimes with pie for dinner, and no need to justify it. Number 6. You can finally unclench. Now, this one gets me every time, because I didn't really understand it until a woman named Barbara said it out loud, in a way only someone who's lived it can. She said, "I didn't know I'd been clenching for 30 years. My jaw, my stomach, my opinions, all of it. I was holding my breath through my marriage. I just got really good at making it look like I wasn't." She told me that the first few months living alone, she kept bracing for something, for someone to ask her to do something, to fix something, to be something. But nothing came. And that's when her body finally mercifully let go. She stopped sucking in her belly when walking past mirrors, stopped censoring her thoughts, stopped sitting up straight when no one else was in the room, and she laughed more, louder. Sometimes she said she even snorted and didn't care. At unclenching, it's not just physical. It's emotional, psychological. It's the first moment your body says, "You're safe now." I read a comment from a woman who said, "I pass gas whenever I want now, and I sing off-key in the shower. I finally feel like I live in my own skin." Now, if that ain't freedom, I don't know what is. And here's the truth that kept coming up again and again. When you've spent a lifetime filtering yourself, it feels revolutionary just to be. To exist in your home without adjusting, without editing, without apologizing. To sleep diagonally in the bed, to wear old pajamas with holes, to say no without guilt, to talk to yourself and actually enjoy the conversation. Living alone doesn't just offer space. It offers release. And for many older women, it's the first time they've ever fully unclenched, not just their hands or jaws or shoulders, but their spirit. And in that release, something extraordinary happens. They don't just feel lighter. They remember who they were before they were holding everything together. And that, my friend, is worth everything. Number 7. You discover new strengths you never knew you had. I'll never forget what a woman named Gloria told me one afternoon while we sat on her porch. She's 73, a retired nurse, and recently divorced after 41 years of what she called a lukewarm vanilla, let's not make waves kind of marriage. Her words, not mine. She leaned back in her rocking chair, looked at me, and said, "I didn't know I could take apart a bathroom sink until it tried to flood my whole house." She laughed while telling me the story. Said she had one hand under the pipe, another on her phone, watching a YouTube tutorial, and a third hand, if she had it, would have been slapping herself for not calling a plumber. But here's the thing. She figured it out. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't fast. But it was hers. When I was married, she said, I would have waited. Let him handle it. But now, I roll up my sleeves and say, well, let's see what I can break today. And she's not alone in that. I've seen it over and over. Women online sharing stories of changing tires, assembling furniture, negotiating with contractors, setting up Wi-Fi routers that seem hell-bent on resisting retirement. At first, it's intimidating. No one really wants to be elbow-deep in a junk drawer looking for the one screwdriver that isn't stripped. But what happens is something quietly remarkable. You do it anyway. You figure it out. You don't just survive. You solve. There's a woman I came across on a Reddit thread. Can't remember her username, but her post stuck with me. She said, I used to think I was fragile. Turns out I was just untested. That right there, that's the whole point. Living alone uncovers parts of you that were buried under years of hell handle it, or I've never done that before. It stretches you in ways that sting at first, but then fill you with this warm, steady pride that no one can take from you. And no, you won't get it all right. You'll break stuff. You'll curse at things. You'll need a nap afterward, but you'll come out the other side a little more capable, a little more grounded, a little more you. Because strength isn't always loud or flashy. Sometimes it's just a woman standing on a step stool replacing her own smoke detector batteries and realizing she doesn't need to ask for help anymore unless she wants to. Number 8. You control the remote and the volume. Now, let me tell you. This one right here, this is sacred ground. If you've ever spent years negotiating over TV shows, movie genres, or what volume isn't too loud, then you already know what I'm about to say. Imagine this. It's 8:00 p.m. You're wrapped in your favorite blanket. There's no one beside you flipping through channels like they're defusing a bomb. No one groaning when you pick Call the Midwife. No one begging to watch Die Hard for the 8th time because it's a Christmas classic. It's just you and the remote. A love story for the ages. Sandra, 67, said it best. I watched Bridgerton in one weekend and paused whenever I wanted. I didn't have to explain the plot, the characters, or why I was swooning. It was glorious. She didn't need to compromise. She didn't need to justify her choices. She was the queen of her castle, and the flat screen was her royal court. And it's not just the content, it's the volume too. My buddy's mom once said, "Your father always said the TV was too loud. Now I crank it up to 40 and nobody dies." There's something so liberating about that. You want the surround sound experience during The Crown? Go for it. Prefer closed captions and the volume low so you can multitask with a puzzle or you're knitting. That's your right. And here's the thing. Controlling the remote may seem small, but it's symbolic of something much bigger. Choice, autonomy, the right to curate your own joy, your own experience, your own rhythm. No more sitting through hours of sports you don't care about. No more fights over the news. No more background noise that doesn't feed your soul. It's just you, your stories, your laughter, your tears, all on your own terms. One woman said she even schedules a movie night with herself every Friday, complete with popcorn, her dog, and zero guilt. She said, "It's my favorite date of the week, and I never argue over what to watch." And that's the beauty of it. When you're living alone, you don't just hold the remote. You hold the power to decide what matters to you. Whether it's British dramas, classic black and white films, cooking shows you'll never try, or just reruns of Murder, She Wrote That lull you into the coziest kind of peace. You get to choose the soundtrack of your evenings. And trust me, that quiet little freedom it sings. Number 9. You sleep better because no one's snoring or stealing the covers. I once heard a woman say, "Marriage taught me many things, but mostly how to sleep on 2 inches of mattress without starting a fight." I nearly choked on my coffee. And look, I'm not here to badmouth husbands, but if you've ever shared a bed with someone who snores like a lawnmower on gravel, or who wraps themselves up in the duvet like a burrito and leaves you clinging to a corner like a half-frozen survivor, you know the struggle. Marianne, a 70-year-old retired librarian I met through a friend, told me that after her divorce, she was nervous about sleeping alone. First night in her empty bed, she left a pillow where her ex-husband used to sleep for comfort, she said. Second night, she tossed that pillow to the floor. By the end of the week, she was sleeping diagonally with a grin on her face and a heating pad tucked under one side like royalty. She said, "I sleep like a cat now, in weird positions with no one asking what time I'm getting up or why I'm still awake at 2:00 a.m. watching baking shows." And that's the thing. It's not just about the absence of snoring or blanket hogging. It's about having the whole bed and the whole night to yourself. You fall asleep when you want to. You get up when your body says it's ready. If you want to read until 1:00 a.m. with a lamp on, no one sighs or grumbles. If you want to listen to ocean waves or thunderstorm sounds on your phone while you drift off, no one makes fun of it. There's no more tiptoeing. No more waking up to a foghorn snore. No more midnight elbow pokes trying to get someone to roll over and then pretending you didn't do it on purpose. One woman online described it like this: sleeping alone feels like the first deep breath after holding it in for years. My body finally relaxes because there's no one else in the bed demanding space I don't want to give. And when your body sleeps better, everything feels better. Your mood, your memory, your joints, even your sense of humor. The world just gets a little easier when you're not dragging around a half-empty gas tank from a night of sleep you never really had. So yes, the silence, the stillness, the diagonal sprawl of solo sleeping, it's not just restful, it's restorative. And frankly, once you've tasted it, sharing a bed again starts to feel like a pretty big ask. Number 10. You start to like your own company, and that changes everything. Now this one sneaks up on you. At first, living alone can feel strange, quiet, maybe even a little hollow, especially if you spent years or decades always having someone around. A husband, a partner, kids, even a pet or two padding down the hallway. But something begins to shift. At first it's small. You notice how peaceful your mornings feel when no one is demanding your attention. You sit with your coffee in complete silence. No TV blaring, no one asking what's for breakfast, no rush, just steam rising from the cup and your thoughts gently waking up beside you. And then one day, you hear yourself laugh out loud at something on TV or something you just said to yourself, and it's genuine. Not forced, not for show, just you in your house coat, laughing because you're actually enjoying your own company. I remember a story from an older woman named Joan, who made a comment that had me both cracking up and nodding along. She said, "I used to dread being alone. Now I talk to myself. I answer back. And sometimes we disagree. But she's growing on me." That's it right there. That's the magic. Because when you live alone long enough, you stop waiting for other people to fill the space. You stop checking your phone hoping someone will call. You stop pacing the room wondering if you should go out just to feel seen. Instead, you start turning inward. And to your surprise, you like what you find. You realize you're funny. You're interesting. You have memories worth reliving, dreams still worth chasing, and ideas that deserve to be spoken aloud, even if only the walls are listening. And that relationship with yourself, it deepens. You begin taking yourself on little dates. A walk to the park, a new book, and a slice of cake at your favorite cafe. You light a candle at night just for you. You dress up for no one but the mirror. You start seeing solitude not as a void, but as a luxury. And here's the kicker. The more time you spend with yourself, the less approval you need from anyone else. One woman in a senior living forum said it best. When I stopped being afraid of my own company, I stopped shrinking myself for anyone else's comfort. I'm not lonely. I'm just finally home. So, if you're sitting in your quiet home right now wondering if it's okay to feel content, the answer is yes. Not only is it okay, it's beautiful. Because liking your own company doesn't mean you've given up on connection. It just means you've stopped outsourcing your joy. And once that happens, you don't walk through life needy. You walk through it whole. You, my friend, become the kind of woman who can enjoy the silence. Because now, the silence finally knows your name. So here's the truth, my friend. Living alone as an older woman, it isn't about being forgotten. It's about being finally found by yourself. It's the quiet victory of sleeping diagonally. The boldness of purple velvet curtains. The strength of fixing a sink with your bare hands. And maybe a little cursing. And it's the joy of laughing out loud in your own kitchen, realizing you're not waiting on anyone to make life feel full again. You already are. If this felt familiar, if it made you smile or nod, or feel just a little more seen, then you're not alone in this. Go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe if you want more stories like this, and maybe even share it with a friend who needs a little reminder that this solo chapter, It just might be her best one yet. Until next time, keep shining and keep living like the main character, because you are.